Anya Paris. Written by Brenda Parker. Narrated by Tony Cookson. Chapter 1. History has an uncanny way of repeating itself. Events come and go, and just as they were all but forgotten, reappear in a different form. The disguise is subtle, familiar enough to evoke a sense of déjà vu, without quite conveying a warning of the consequences. Were it not so, Florence thought, her family would never have embarked on some harebrained scheme to rescue them from their financial straits. They would simply have sold land, pictures, whatever it took to raise funds to repair the roof of Foxsteads. Had things been different, then 1959 would not have been the watershed it was, with Florence in her 95th year forced to admit that there was nothing new under the sun. But then, of course, history has an uncanny way of being wise after the event. But on this particular day, history had yet to be written, and Florence's thoughts were focused on less vexing matters. Shuffling deeper into her wicker chair, tugging at the tartan rug over her knees, she raised her face to the sun and grinned benignly. It was spring, and she had made it through the coldest and most prolonged winter she could remember, an achievement in itself. This was the first time the wicker chair had been brought onto the terrace, and as the men of the household had already gone about their business, it had fallen to her niece-in-law to mount it into the attic to retrieve it. Florence did not entertain the least pang of guilt. Implacably she had watched Catherine struggling down the stairs with it, wondering how anyone not yet 70 could make such heavy weather of the task. Then she had had Catherine running in and out of the house on the least pretext ever since. Florence rather enjoyed being a nuisance. At 94 she reckoned she had earned the right to be demanding. She leant back and gazed upwards through the pink-starred tendrils of the overhanging clematis. Rising through it, she could see the grey stones of the old house warmed by the sunshine, and at the top of the just discernible crenulations of the peel tower, cutting a jagged pattern against the sky, a pair of swallows swooped low over her head, then soared away out of sight. Florence smiled to herself. Her eyesight was no longer good, but so familiar was this corner and so well loved the sight, that in her way she could make out every line and detail of it. Even the swallows might have been the self-same birds she had watched here as a small girl, clinging to her nanny's hand. They still nested in the same crevices. For years she had entered the date of their arrival in her diary, but alas, the diary was no longer kept. It was a pity, Florence thought. To have lived in one place for nearly a century was quite something for the record. Florence's memories were undeniably a colourful page of history. Hers had been a Victorian childhood of endless summers, when the house had worn an air of opulence, echoing an opulent age. In those days, Foxsteads had presided over an expansive social scene, when lavish entertaining was simply part of a way of life. She remembers as a child standing tiptoe on this very spot, eagerly awaiting the arrival of carriages, seeing the gravel of the drive painstakingly raked into shell-shaped patterns, only to be scattered by the first equipage, then hiding behind the curtains on the landing to watch guests mingling below. It had been so splendid to see her mother dressed in rustling blue taffeta, almost always blue, Florence recalled, perhaps because of the sapphires she liked to wear, and her dear father, towering above everyone, quite the handsomest man in the whole world. Memories to take the breath away. Florence, who could not always remember the day before yesterday with any clarity, held every detail of her childhood safely tucked away in the deepest corner of her mind. But inevitably all that had changed. Of course the Chevenings were still a handsome lot, no doubt of that, but the airs and graces had long since vanished, along with the plentiful servants and the appetite for high living. Even the sapphires had had to go. It was all such a pity, but it had also been essential.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?